What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and today we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning the IBF world title fight between George Kambosos Jr. and Vasily Lomachenko. Guys, last night in Perth, Australia, the title was on the line. The IBF strap at 135 pounds between Vasily Lomachenko and George Kambosos Jr. If you watch the fight, you'll know that that fight ended in the 11th round via stoppage. George's corner actually had to throw the towel in, and a lot of questions were answered from both sides. A lot of people were wondering, what form of Loma were we gonna get? Was he gonna be the high-level chess player with the beautiful footwork and the agility and the accuracy, or was he gonna look like the 36-year-old former world champion that has seen his better days? And with Kambosos, we were wondering, could he make lightning in a bottle twice? Could he do what he did against Teofimo Lopez against Lomachenko and turn his naysayers away from his last few defeats against Devin Haney? We saw a dominant Vasily Lomachenko. We saw the slickness. We saw the high-level chess playing. If you watch the fight, you would have seen a guy in the early rounds figuring out his opponent, and then mid to late rounds, he started damaging the body. And it was that body work that eventually paid off in the 11th round that got a tough and gritty Kambosos Jr. out of there. This was the first time ever in George's career that he was stopped, and I'm glad that the corner threw the towel in. Granted, it was in the 11th round, but Lomachenko was pouring it on. Today in this video, we're gonna go over the statistics, the punch stats, the fight analytics that tell the real story of this fight. We're gonna break down those statistics into total numbers of punches thrown, power punches, and jabs. And just like we always do on these videos, at the very end, I'm gonna ask you guys for your feedback. We're also gonna talk about the landscape at 135 pounds, so stay tuned to the end of this video. All right, guys, a couple statistics that blew me away that really tell the story of this fight is the number 40. 40 is the total amount of punches that George Kambosos landed in the entire fight. It went 11 rounds, 40 total punches for George Kambosos. Another number that we're gonna break down is 8. George Kambosos didn't land more than 8 punches in any round. What does this tell you about his opponent? Lomachenko. We knew he was slick, we knew that he was slippery, but that elusiveness that we saw from Lomachenko in early pro fights coming out of the Olympics, we hadn't really seen a lot. He's always slick. He was getting hit a lot more in his previous fights than he was early on in his career. This fight against George, he wasn't getting hit at all. And when you look at the storyline of the statistics, that plays out in the narrative of why Loma won this fight. So let's first talk about the total jabs thrown and total jabs landed. We know that the jab is the key to the car. The jab is the punch that helps the fighter set up the rest of their game plan and the rest of the offense. A fighter who has trouble landing the jab is gonna have trouble setting up their other punches. A fighter who's accurate with the jab mostly will be more successful in terms of what their game plan wants to achieve. And when we look at the final punch report, Vasily Lomachenko threw 270 jabs, landing 70 of them at a 26% clip. George only threw 182. He landed 4 at a 2% clip. Kambosos in 11 rounds landed 4 jabs. What does that tell you? Every time he would throw them, Loma wouldn't be there to get hit. So Lomachenko figured out George very early on in this fight. He figured out his space, distance, and timing, and once he figures that out, you are in trouble. Now let's take a look at the power punches. Vasily Lomachenko threw 210 power punches, landing 105 at exactly 50% clip. George Kambosos threw 189, landing 36 at a 19% clip. Once again, in order to set our power punches up, we have to get inside the pocket. We have to get inside the strike zone. How are you gonna get inside if you're not landing the jab? So these two statistics on Kambosos' end make a lot of sense. He lands 4 jabs in 11 rounds. No wonder his power punches were less than 20% landed. If the jab doesn't land, how are you gonna throw the power? Lomachenko did an excellent job at negating George's game plan from an early round on, and as the fight went on, he knew that George was just waiting on a miracle, just looking to land something heavy. And Lomachenko's too smart for that. He's too smart to get hit. I did a video last week though about Vasily is the type of fighter who will stand and trade, but he does this with intelligence. He will stand and trade once he has his opponent figure out, once he sees the risk of getting hit is lower than the reward. And when he sees that reward is high, his eyes get big and he starts teeing off. And you started seeing this with his body work mid-rounds, and this is actually the punches that led to the Kambosos stoppage, was the body work. Once he's able to sit down on those punches, get in and out of range, and land those body shots, he is really tough to beat at 135 pounds. Now let's take a final look at the total punches thrown versus the total punches landed and see those statistics. Throughout the 11-round affair, Lomachenko threw 480 punches, landed 175 at a 37% clip. George Kambosos threw 371, landing only 40 at 11% clip. Percentages, accuracy, total punches thrown, total punches landed. This all comes down to footwork, space, timing. Are you taking risks? From the very early stages of this fight, George wasn't able to set his jab up, therefore he wasn't able to set his game plan up. Lomachenko looked levels above Kambosos. I don't know if it's the storyline that the media is running with, that Lomachenko just looked exceptional more than he has in a while, or that George just looked a bit worn down. I always like to play on the side of the victor rather than to pour on the loser. So I'd like to think that Lomachenko had another one of these top career performances. I'd like to think at 36, he still has gas in the tank, and I want to focus on his strengths rather than focusing on George's weaknesses. So to end this video, I want to talk about that landscape at 135 pounds. We know in the upcoming week, we got the WBO belt on the line between Baranchik and Navarrete, but the belt holders currently Gervonta Davis, Shakur Stevenson, and Vasily Lomachenko. And the winner of Baranchik versus Navarrete will be the fourth. Now in that division, with Loma defeating George, there's a lot of exciting matchups to make. We know that the Tank Loma fight was supposed to take place years ago. We know Shakur has been campaigning for the Lomachenko fight. Who do you guys want to see Loma fight? I'm not going to tell you my opinion until you tell me yours. We'll do a separate video later in the week on this exact thing. Let me know what you think about the Kambosos versus Lomachenko fight. Let me know what you think about the statistics. And finally, who do you want to see Loma fight next? Leave all of that in the comment section below.